are gonna start. That's really fun information. Welcome to the Ramsey County Board Workshop. Today's workshop is titled Bronze Line Bus Rapid Transit. And courtesy reminder that this board workshop is recorded and it is live streamed on Zoom webinar, so people can be watching us. There will be no votes taken during the workshop. And then we'll start with the introduction of commissioners and presenters around the table, and then we'll proceed with the rest of the room. So I will start with Commissioner Mary Jo McGuire, Commissioner District 2.
Tara Jevonsing, Commissioner District 1.
Rena Moran, Commissioner District 4.
Lynn Becker, Car Manager.
Brian Eiston, Public Works Director.
Steven Smith, Senior Transportation Planner and Bronze Line Project Manager.
Jennifer Jordan, Manager Transit and Multimodal.
Mike Rogers, Deputy Director for Public Works, Multimodal Planning.
Kelly Miller, Commissioner District 7. Kept going there. I just stopped.
My Chong Chong, Commissioner District 6.
Right, and let's start back. Someone back there, yeah.
Harry Collins, Deputy County Manager, Economic Growth and Community Investment.
And why don't you tell us about the 100-year cookies while you've got the book?
We brought those in, it's unrelated to the topic of the workshop, but they're doing an internal celebration to celebrate $100 million invested over the last 5 years in affordable housing.
That big press will release in 2 weeks.
Oh,
It's
okay.
coming.
Just cookies now.
Yes.
Oh, just cookies, but big celebration.
New cookies in 2 weeks.
Yeah, new cookies are sure.
Okay, thank you. Great, congrats. Congrats.
Dan Barr, County Surveyor.
Director of Communication.
Seth Bauer, Multimodal Planning Intern.
How Chang, Administrative Planning Assistant.
Amy Barnsdorf, Senior Transportation Planner.
Mike Mosela, Ramsey County Public Works.
Rick Barco, Government Relations Specialist, First Aid.
Matt Brady,
Sharon Francois, Deputy County Manager of Community Services and Supports.
Jordan Cruz with ED State Plans and County.
Lily Richard Financial.
Christy Cobbs, Planning Manager's Office.
Brian Tomlin, Rubber Assistance.
All right, and
Raphael Ortega, Commissioner District 5.
wonderful. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Congrats again on the 100 million investment, which we'll be hearing more about in the next few weeks. So the purpose of today's discussion is to provide an overview of the project, the proposed capital grant agreement, the cooperative project delivery agreement, and the public works staffing plan before these items come before us for future consideration. The capital grant agreement is scheduled to come before the board for consideration on August 18th, and this is all in regards to the Bronze Line Bus Rapid Transit. This project has been a long time in the making. It reflects years of planning, public engagement, and strong collaboration between Ramsey County, Metro Transit, City of St. Paul, the City of Maplewood, and many other partners. While there is still important work ahead, today's workshop marks a significant milestone. Thank you, everyone. The Bronze Line represents a significant investment in Ramsey County's transportation system that will improve mobility, strengthen our communities, and support long-term economic growth while modernizing key county infrastructure. The project will require continued partnership between Ramsey County, the Met Council, our municipal partners, and the communities we serve. This is a true partnership between Ramsey County and the Met Council. While each agency has distinct responsibilities, we are delivering one integrated capital project with a shared schedule, shared budget, and shared decision making. Good job. All right, and so with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Mike Rogers. And you already know who else is at the table here. And I'm gonna just ask if we could just let them do the presentation so we can, get through that, and then we can do questions at the end. And it worked really well last time. I was very proud of us.
I'm just not gonna ask you anything.
Well, we have to, but we're gonna just try and let them get through it, and then I think it'll go faster that way. Okay, thank you, Mike Rogers.
Yes, and I know we're starting a little bit late, so I will keep my remarks brief to try and help us get into the meat of the presentation, where Jennifer and Stephen will be giving you lots of the new information. So as you mentioned, Commissioner, we are here to talk about Bronze Line, give you an update on some of the agreements that are going to be coming before you, talk about public works staffing needs related to this project and others, and then what's going to be coming before you to the board. So next one. So Specifically on our agenda will be an overview and our project delivery approach. Those two specific agreements being the capital grant agreement, and then the follow-on agreement being the cooperative development or cooperative project delivery agreement. Talk about some technical elements that we have out there with Bronze Line that you may or may not have started to hear about. They're out there in the community. People are asking for more detail on them. So to make sure that you're up to speed on those. Talk about the schedule and next step, as well as then the staffing needs before opening it up for conversation. Just wanting to be out there to say that Bronze Line itself is part of the larger Building Stronger Together setup here at the county, in that it utilizes a number of the same plans that are out there. So it definitely is focused on community and economic competitiveness and inclusivity. It works with climate equity in action, our All Abilities 2050 transportation plan, and then the transportation improvement program. So all those plans are part of it. Bronze Line is a big part of making sure people have access to jobs, education, healthcare, and services. It does connect downtown to the greater east side and to Maplewood. It is about changing a corridor from something that was built, say, in the 1960s, and it was a very auto-centric corridor, to looking and saying, what are the needs of the community today? How do we improve biking? How do we improve walking? How do we improve safety? How do we emphasize transit to make it something that is more in line with the needs of the community today, more resilient, more looking at it from an environmental standpoint as well, and reinvestment in that infrastructure that's out there so that all those aging facilities can be replaced to provide that maximum benefit to the public. And then just a quick piece before turning it over to Stephen. Just as a reminder, we've talked about this previously, but Bronze Line is a 100% local funded project. About 90% of that money is coming from Ramsey County, either through our Regional Railroad Authority levy or through the half-cent county controlled sales tax. So those are just things out there, while the remaining 10% is coming from our council. So with that, Stephen, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Mike. So I'm going to provide a brief overview of the project. I know many of you are familiar with the Bronze Line, but it's always good to kind of go back over just some of the elements associated to the scope of work. So on the route map, we have starting from Union Depot to Maplewood Mall. It's about 10 miles long. 50% of the alignment is about dedicated guideway. There's about 22 stations, 17 new. The first station that we will end up building is the 14th Street station over near Regions. And the rest downtown has either going to be built or been built by either Gold Line. So those are shared platforms too as well. Then kind of making our way all the way up to Maplewood. Like I said before, there are 17 stations, and the main goal here is really that all-day reliable transit. Some stats related to this, just kind of looking at our previous ridership model, where 28% of the trips are going to be related to the work commute. And this is kind of when you start thinking about pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, this route is really post-pandemic. So we're seeing about 64% of the trips are expected to be households without an automobile, which is huge. 97% of the trips will be either walking, biking, or transferring between transit lines. And then only 3% of the trips are really going to be at the Maplewood Transit Center park and ride trips. So this is really an all-day route, very different than the post-pandemic or pre-pandemic route. And then also when you think about this line too as well, is if you look at the overall map for Metro Transit, there's a gap of high frequency. And this is a good investment for the east side too as well. So, and I also just mentioned that there's 12 schools, 5 healthcare facilities, and 2 libraries too along the route. Project delivery. So we're taking a different approach, and it's very different than what it used to be. With this, we are looking at 2 with Ramsey County leading a section of the project, Metro Transit leading a section of the project, and really still being one integrated project. So we're still one project office, and you heard earlier from the commissioner, share schedule, share budget, share decisions, and share success. And that's really true. And so how we decided to divide up the elements related to what we're delivering is really what are in our expertise. So the roadway, the utilities, the streetscape, pedestrian improvements, bus line. These are going to be elements where like we have bus lanes that's actually in Ramsey County roads. And so we decided that that makes a lot of sense for us to go about and design those elements. And the same thing for Metro Transit related to the bus stations, the transit system, operations planning, fleet, and bridge. There's dedicated bridges associated to this project that's going to be transit only. And there's guideway as well that's going to be transit only. So we really divided up our elements to our expertise, but still kind of approaching this from one integrated project approach. So some of the key elements here, I just wanted to kind of talk about what are some of the design elements that Ramsey County is focused on. There's Pennsylvania Avenue corridor, which is something that's being wrapped up. That's done by Public Works right now that will get integrated into the Bronze Line. You'll see an image of that here shortly. There's also Phelan Boulevard, which is going to end up getting a mill and overlay as part of our project. There's Maryland and White Bear Avenue too as well, where those are full reconstruction. And not only are we addressing the full reconstruction piece, but the safety elements associated to Maryland and White Bear. And then there's White Bear Avenue pavement replacement. So looking at in the Maplewood section, really rehabbing that pavement that's there today that's not in the greatest shape. So that's something that's going to be part of the Ramsey County scope of work. These are some of the major areas. And so here is just a real quick image of what that looks like. So this is the Pennsylvania Avenue. This is also part of the Bronze Line. It was something that as we're going through a study process when we're still trying to figure out where the alignment is going to end up being, this was an area where Public Works was also looking at this area saying, hey, we need to kind of take a look at this, start fixing this up and going through a design process. So they're taking this all the way to 30% design, and then we're going to incorporate into Bronze Line and take it all the way to 100% to construction. And then there's Maryland Avenue. I think you've seen this rendering before, but as Mike said earlier, when you start thinking about the auto-centric in the existing and really thinking about the multimodal aspects related to what we're doing now and the proposed, this is the proposed condition that we're thinking about. Also thinking about the safety condition too as well, providing better ways to cross Maryland Avenue. And with the dedicated lanes being in red, so those are lanes that are on street, where we're converting a lane in each direction to a transit lane. And so those are some of the things that we're going to be thinking about as we're kind of moving into the design phase of this project of how do we address this and make sure that we're designing the best transit lanes that we can. With White Bear Avenue.
Stand.
Really close.
You guys to tell Siri, she needs to ask questions.
That's fun.
So with White Bear Avenue in St. Paul, it's the same kind of concept where we're taking the existing condition and the proposed condition, really trying to make sure that we're addressing safety concerns and also with the transit lanes associated in red here. So then for a Metro Transit scope of work, you kind of heard me talk about this earlier, the stations in Maplewood too as well, transit safety and security, bus guideway bridges. So I just wanted to kind of quickly show a couple of examples of that. I think we're all familiar with the Gold Line example. This is a Gold Line station. So with the real-time messaging, off-board fare collection, near level board, and with the heated shelter too as well, which is great for our winters. This is similar to what we're approaching right now in terms of our design. So the station you're seeing here, we're going to look at this kind of station design and see how it fits within more of our urban setting related to the Maryland and White Bear corridor. So we're looking at stations similar to what the Gold Line station looked like. And then here's a dedicated bridge. So this is one of our first bridges. This is our Arcade Street near the Payne-Phelan community. So you can kind of see here that this is a bridge that is only for the buses. And so this is something that Metro Transit will have in their design scope.
Nice.
Our second bridge is the Johnson Parkway Bridge. This is where we're kind of coming across our Bruce Central Trail, where we're also going to have dedicated guideway that's going to be in the pink. And then Metro Transit will be responsible for the trail, will be responsible for the guideway that we're building within the Ramsey County right-of-way. and then also the bridge too as well, going across onto Maryland. And then here's an example. So this is just a rendering example of what that bridge could look like. You can see that it's carrying across the Bruce Central Trail or trail connection. And then you can see the dedicated guideway or the dedicated bridge portion of just where it's going to be transit only. And I will hand it off to Jennifer to talk about the CDA.
Yeah, and I will say that in those images that Stephen showed on the bridge, that is a very low percentage of design. So, you know, in this next phase, there's going to be a lot of work by the design team to really figure out what that looks like, where that bridge goes. And so that's kind of just a bare bones rendering. I just wanted to call that out for you. Right. So the capital grant agreement, that is an action that's going to come before you on the 18th. We've been negotiating this capital grant agreement with Met Council for quite a while. And its purpose is to be able to transfer money from Ramsey County to Metropolitan Council so that they can do their design scope and that we can work together. And so that is the primary goal and purpose of this agreement, is a funding mechanism. And so as a result, you know, Mike touched on the funding sources that we're providing to help get this project done. Our sales tax and our regional rail authority levy make up the bulk of that funding that we will be transferring over to Metropolitan Council. And in doing that, it will allow us to establish the parameters around the funding, reporting, having that accountability as a grantor to the grantee, which is Metropolitan Council, and having the oversight of our funds and being good stewards of our funds as we're delivering this project together. Now, what is coming, and we don't have an actual estimated time of arrival for the cooperative project delivery agreement. This agreement will focus on how we will be delivering the project. So while the capital grant agreement is the funding mechanism for us to transfer funds, the cooperative project delivery agreement will be the how. So there's a lot more detail that we're working through with Met Council in terms of how we deliver this project together. So, you know, looking at the image on the left, you know, we've got Ramsey County Board, we've got Metropolitan Council Board, but we will be implementing through this agreement a project decision board, and there will be representatives from Ramsey County as well as Metropolitan Council on this to serve as the executive level decisions on scope, cost, schedule, and issues. And that will happen at each project milestone. So at 30%, 60%, 90% design, the project decision board will get a briefing on where we're at in terms of the budget, in terms of any issues, in terms of what's happening around schedule. As you step down, the project leadership team, you know, that's comprised of folks from Ramsey County Public Works leadership and Metro Transit, Metropolitan Council staff leadership to have, you know, oversight and decision making as things arise. And as we step down, there's the day-to-day project management team, of which Stephen is a huge part of. I'm a part of, in terms of continuing to move this project forward. And then, as you all know, we're bringing back consultant teams, which will actually be doing the works, like for instance, on the Johnson Parkway Bridge. And so this is a structure that we'll be laying out in detail in this cooperative agreement, and we'll be bringing that to you to ensure that we have accountability and that we keep you all in the loop as we are spending money on the project.
Jennifer, would it be fair to compare this project structure to, say, the Goal Line Joint Powers Board? That's similar.
Yeah, I think that's it. They're not quite the same, but yeah, I think that's a great kind of analogy for those of you that's familiar with, Gold Line Joint Powers Board. All right. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Stephen to talk about, he's gonna highlight some of the technical issues that we already know that we're gonna have to be dealing with, as soon as consultants come back. What did I do?
Can you try just click the click it again? See if it turns off. There.
There we go. All right.
Yeah, so these are some of the technical issues that we're thinking about and that we wanted to make sure that you are all aware of too as well. We see that these are some of the areas that we're probably gonna spend more considerable time on as the design team, as we're thinking about how do we address some of the concerns in these areas. So Arcade Station is one where we know that from talking with Pay Phelan, that they're concerned about the proximity of the station location, so they want it to be closer to the closer to Arcade, which is the kind of the intersection that you can see, the street intersection that you can see in this image. And so right now the station is about 200 to 300 feet away from that. And so one of the things I always hear about is like trying to figure out, and I hear this, the board talk about it too, is placemaking. And so how can we do a better job with placemaking? And you can kind of see a depression next to the station, close to the intersection there, where we're thinking about, well, how do we can we bring that even more up at grade? Is there more opportunity here to work with the community to kind of figure out how to utilize that empty space? And so those are some of the things that we're thinking about as we kind of get into shifting to design. And as Jennifer said, one of the things that we're really excited about is having consultants back. Right now, we don't have consultants. We dismissed them back in December because we were going through this new approach, and then we needed to procure new consultants. And so we're almost at the very end of that, where we're going to actually have consultants back in the fall, so we can get right back into design. So we're very excited about that. But this is one of those areas where we want to work with the community to kind of figure out how to make placemaking here too as well. On top of, recognizing where the station is from a geometric standpoint, from that intersection that they're concerned about. The next one is Walk on Teepee. And so this is a project that is led by a nonprofit. I think a lot of us are familiar with Walk on Teepee, the Daylighting Creek Project. It's a Dakota-led Native nonprofit, led by Maggie Lorenz. She's the executive director, and they're right now working on what you can't see to the north, reaches 7 and 8, which is basically at Lake Phelan. And they're looking to start daylighting there. So they're working with the city of St. Paul and the watershed. But the next reach that they're working on is really 5 or 7 through 5, I would say. And that's where we're also introducing the dedicated guideway. We have the Bruce Until Trail, and then at the same time, the space, looking at how do we all work together in the same space, related to them wanting to daylight the creek in that area of the Bruce Until Trail. So the spirit of this is that there's going to be a lot of coordination, a lot of partnership with Walk on Teepee. And so I just wanted to make sure that everyone's kind of aware of this. This is something that the project team, when we get back in design, we're looking forward to working with Walk on Teepee to kind of figure out how can we address all the different space constraints. So more to come related to this one, but just wanted to make you aware of, this is something that we, in the spirit of partnership, we want to work with Walk on Teepee to try to figure out how do we kind of fit as many things as we can in this space. So. And we also have a shout out to Nicole Bean too as well, which someone that I've been working with, which is our American Indian Relations Administrator. And so I've been working closely with her, and then also working closely with Allison from Met Council, which is our is the Native American relations person too as well. So. And then Johnson Parkway. Johnson Parkway, you kind of heard me talk about this earlier. this is a key bridge for us. It's in the middle of our alignment. And when you start thinking about the reliability here, this bridge is very important, and think about the multimodal aspect to it. It's a very important connection from a bike and pedestrian standpoint too as well. It allows us not to intersect with Johnson Parkway in terms of traffic. And so it really allows that direct connection from the Bruce Central Trail over onto Maryland Avenue. But the concern here is that with real life cooperative, which is like that image off to the side where you can kind of see a building in kind of pink. That is a retirement community. Our bridge comes about 50 feet close to the building. We have our right of way, which is our rail right of way that we purchased back in the 90s. It's about 100 feet wide. And so one of the things that we heard from them is that they're concerned with how close it is to the building. And one of the things that we're starting to look at is actually shifting it to see if it's feasible to shift it a little bit further away. And so that's something that once we actually have our designers back on board, we want to work with real life. We want to connect with them, have our designers go talk with them in the fall. We already met with them a couple times now. So they're one of the voices where we recognize that there's concerns associated to how they feel the proximity is, but at the same time, we're trying to balance all the different community needs, the engagement associated to it, and this is a very important bridge to the overall success to the project too as well. So looking forward to talking with Walk on TP and connecting with them in the future, or sorry, with real life and talking with them in the future, and just continue that partnership with them and basically make sure that we're providing all the updates to them, seeing whether or not it's feasible to shift the bridge. And then we have our reconstruction piece. And so what I wanted to highlight here is that when we start thinking about a full reconstruction, one of the things that as a project team, we're also thinking about how do we minimize property impacts. We're really trying to stay as much as we can within our right of way, and knowing that we're also reconstructing the sidewalks too as well. There's areas where we would widen out just slightly related to the stations when we're putting in those full station platforms. Right now, if you went out there, there's a pole in the ground. And so now we're trying to accommodate stations. And so we have areas where we would widen out. There's areas where we're providing those pedestrian refuges where we will widen out too as well. And then, and so overall, when we start looking at the streetscape, we're thinking about how do we also minimize the property impacts. And then we're also thinking about construction staging as well. So these are some of the things that when we're thinking about moving forward in the design phase, like how do we make sure that we're thinking about all the things, all the different design elements to make sure that we're communicating with the businesses, we're communicating with the public, the residents in the area, so they understand the property impacts associated to this project. I'm going to pass it to Brian to talk a little bit more about construction and design.
Thanks, Stephen. This brings a little bit broader public works perspective into this project. I know we've had a number of conversations with you all about construction impacts, sometimes not in the best of circumstances. I think what we are working hard to implement improved, I'll call it improved process for how we construct projects. And this slide does a really good job of articulating some of the things we're after. I'd say top three things we're really after is being proactive, being responsive to the community, and being solution oriented. So you see here a number of things. Part of how we're going after this is to be very intentional about how we select the contractor, because the contractor is a crucial component of how well we work with the community and how we're able to execute on being solution oriented. And that relates to things like, are we in touch with the business community? Are we creative in terms of how we maintain continuous business access? One of the things that our folks have done a really great job on already and working into the initial design contracts has been, we want folks to be really thoughtful and creative about how we manage, how we stage the project. Imagining that we did this whole project all at one time, not feasible. And so how we stage that so that we're minimizing community impacts is gonna be crucial to that success. Creating materials and being in touch with the business community is gonna be a crucial component of what we do. The last piece of this puzzle I'll emphasize here is we don't construct projects in a vacuum. We need to coordinate with the Met Transit work that's being done. We need to coordinate with other agencies that are doing work in the area, and that's been one of our real important goals since I've been in this job, has been to really have a much more robust conversation with our partners about where things are at and how we talk to each other, make sure we don't close situations and leave people stranded. And lastly, there's a related piece here, which is about Bronze Line is happening in a similar time frame to when H Line is coming along, and there are some common sections. And so we're in active conversation with Met Council about how do we stage all of those pieces so that we're landing multiple planes not on top of each other. And that's a big component of what we're doing here. This is no small undertaking for us. This is a big project. And historically, we've done it in very different ways, but I think that we have the right people and we have a good consultant team to support us. And we're having a good conversation with Met Transit about how do we put all these pieces together. So I think we're setting up well for successful construction.
You know, the hardest thing is for me to hold, like I got a whole list of things. So I'm really struggling. I am really struggling.
Close to the end.
I'm
Trying to write out and down.
Less than 5 minutes.
Calm down, folks.
Just a couple minutes.
Yeah, can you quick finish so we can ask my question?
I think you're in my slides. Yeah. So a little bit about schedule. And so we're here in 2026. We're gonna start design. We're gonna start our environmental process, and the environmental process is one of the first steps too as well. When we're in preliminary design, doing our environmental worksheet, which is something that we're voluntarily doing, by the way. It's not something that's required for the project. It was something that was required when we were in the federal process. But we're in the state process and our project doesn't necessarily fit within that we have to do it, but we think for the public interest, we did it before, let's do it again. And so that's why we're deciding to do it as part of our design roadmap. We would get to construction around that 2030 timeframe. That's what we're looking at right now. And then picking up people around that 2032 timeframe. That's our current schedule. But I think the bottom bar is the most important piece. I always try to emphasize to the public that everything we do, through the different steps that we take throughout the design process, we're interacting with the public. There's a feedback loop there where we need to know, as we're progressing different things, where we want their feedback in on that piece of design. And so it's very important that the public also hear that, because it is something that we don't just do at one point in time, we do it throughout the entire process. And so that's even in construction.
And Ramsey County is holding the contract for engagement and strategic communications. So we will have more of a say in.
Yep. So yeah, there's 3 contracts. And the third contract is a engagement contract. So really putting emphasis on what we're doing. Ryan talked about MOT, or maintenance of traffic, and staging. Those are very crucial pieces to what we're trying to do. And then that engagement piece with the businesses is going to be very equally important. So that third contract is really going to be that conduit to connecting all the connective tissue related to these contracts. So it's going to be really interesting and a lot of fun too as well. So. And next steps related to this is, you heard Jennifer talk about the CGA, so that's coming to you on the 18th. And then you also heard Jennifer talked about the cooperative, project delivery agreement. That's something that we're still working on. ETA, hopefully this year, we will be coming to you, with a second agreement related to kind of how we deliver this together with Metro Transit. So.
Okay. Okay,
Wait, one more. Sorry,
Last piece of the puzzle, and then-
okay,
obviously, we're in a different paradigm than we have been for these types of projects, and this is an increase to our program to deliver a project of this scale. And so there are some staffing needs. I think we've heard the importance of communications, and so that's part of the puzzle here. Every project like this typically needs some dedicated folks, both on the engineering side as well as on the traffic side. We're gonna hire some folks to help out on the right of way side as support for the work, the folks who are doing that work, and to make decisions that support the county in that setting. And as well as supporting some work on the communications side, we're funding a position in communications to help with this and other ongoing projects. And so the assertion here is that we're able to fund those without levy. We're able to fund those with the funding sources that we're using for this type of construction, so.
good luck, good job, everyone on this board, that we held our questions, because I have a long list here, but I'm gonna thank you all for this great work, and just a public shout out to Brian, who met with me just last week about, you know, pedestrian and bike lanes as we do construction on all these lines. So my questions are gonna revolve around that, but I'm gonna let you all ask your questions, and then I'll get into mine. So with that, I know, Commissioner Miller, you've got some, and then Commissioner Zhang, and we'll just kind of go around, but Commissioner Miller, I'll let you go, because this is really, yours in Commissioner Zhang's area. Is it all your, no? It's both yours. Yeah. And some.
us too.
Oh, so it's everybody's, okay.
We spread it around.
I guess, not in, I was telling our Commissioner Jevon saying, we're hoping our line comes in at some point, that it gets into our area, but anyway. Okay, I know,
We try.
we're working on it,
One line
yeah,
at a
we
time.
know, we're that black county.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Orville.
Well, okay, Commissioner Miller.
Okay, mine goes back to, where we at here. My first question is more on the Bruce Vento Trail, and how you mentioned that we're gonna there could be some reconstruction or some work that has to be done in order to do the dedicated lines. Is that scope of the trail work, that will come from the bronze line budget and not a Parks and Rec budget item?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you for that. And then the next one would be to the Wakan Teepee and the Daylighting the Creek project. Is this something, I know this is something that you're working in partnership with them on, and you're like, working as they go, but would this be considered for a budget item as well for their contributions? And where does the Bruce Vento Trail, I was trying to look it up here and then look it up online as well to see, where does the Bruce Vento Trail run along that creek?
Yeah, so that's a great question.
Or do we need to, is it like the trail needs to be realigned so the creek can be daylighted? I guess I'm just curious to know.
No, I think that's a great question, Commissioner. So I mentioned earlier that the funding that they have right now is to do reach 8 and 7.
Yep,
So they're daylighting at the Lake Leyland
yep.
at the top.
Can you just explain daylighting? Is it so you can see the creek?
Yeah, so you can see it, cause it was closed off many, many years ago, so way back when, it was an actual creek, but then it was closed off, and I think it's a stormwater or something to do with stormwater maybe, as well.
So it's not just seeing it, it's actually.
Bringing it up, bringing it back
We did
to
the Price
sunlight,
Creek,
yeah.
like we did something, okay.
Yeah.
And in some ways that we will end up reconstructing that whole entire area. So
Okay.
to be able to accommodate within our right of way.
Yeah,
To be able to accommodate the trail, which is still gonna be there, it's just gonna be reconstructed, the guideway too as well. And alongside that, trying to understand what we can help with related to Walk on TP. Right now, their budget that they have is really just for reach 7
Right.
and 8. recognizing that we're gonna be advancing the project, right?
Yeah.
What we don't wanna do is, preclude them from a potential opportunity.
Yeah,
There's short-term and long-term goals for Walk on TP. Short-term goals would be, I think recognizing the geometry or the topography of that area. They understand that there are certain sections, a big section of reaches 7 to 5 almost is gonna be in a pipe.
yeah,
And I think what we need to do is work with the watershed, work with Walk on TP to kind of understand the constraints of this area and what we can do, because we're gonna be reconstructing that entire
Right.
area anyway. So if we're digging, is there an opportunity to partner with Walk on TP to help with that area too as well? So we're gonna be learning more as we get into design, as we talk with them more, as we talk with the watershed. Also, I should mention St. Paul Parks and Rec too as well. They maintain this area of the Bruce Mental Trail, so we're gonna be partnering with St. Paul Parks and Rec too as well. As we kind of move along in design and discussing this, but as a line item for, we have like 2 independent projects going on right now, right? And so Walk on TP is not a line item within our
Okay.
project, yeah.
I just wanted to make that clear that any reconstruction of the Bruce Mental Trail is covered by this budget item and is not gonna fall under our Parks and Recs budget.
Yeah.
Okay. That is great to know, and then, that's it, I think. I mean, I know, right? They were just, the rest of mine are just notes for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Jean.
Thank you. So I'll start off with some of the basic questions first. For the funding, with the levy and also with the sales tax, do you have an idea of like what the breakdown is?
Commissioner, in terms of, the specifics between those two sources?
No, just what the amounts are.
Oh, okay.
Are you breaking it 50/50?
Yeah, I think currently we are thinking it would be 50/50.
I think that the mix is gonna be determined later, because I think
Yeah.
that there's some other funding sources we may wanna bring into
Okay.
this, like some of the
Okay.
regional sales tax that comes into this that can pay for transit elements, and so I don't know that we know that answer today.
Mhm.
But I think over time, we'll start to zero in, especially as we know more about the details of the engineering.
Okay, great. And then, the other questions I just had around, what are the decision points? Like, do you have a timeline of decision points for, both design and construction? And then, for the governing board for the accountability, yes, I'm very familiar with the gold line. But since this is, like 90% funded by the county, right? Like, what are decision points that, we are asking for the Met Council to come to us for like approval or whatnot?
Yeah, great question, Commissioner. So we put back up here the schedule and you'll see under design advancement, 30%, 60%, 90%, 100%. Those are the milestones that the project decision board will meet on to go through at each one of those stages in terms of the budget, the scope, any issues that are coming up. So there will be touch points. And that, you know, Ramsey County is good stewards of our funding. You know, we have that oversight built into this project through the project decision board at those milestones.
And the integrated approach is that this is still one project. And so when you meet, it's not just to talk about the Metro Transit scope, it's gonna be also to talk about the Ramsey County scope as one project. So I think like ECCB, I hate that acronym.
Executive Control Change Board, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
That they go over basically contingency, the cost of the project. So when you think about the Joint Powers Board with the ECCB, the project decision board is probably like a hybrid of that. Because you're gonna get brought basically all those things combined, where the decision points of, okay, we're at 30%, we're carrying this much contingency, we're gonna wanna bring it down based on the progression of design. All those different design elements will get brought to that project decision board too as well.
And what is, the threshold? Because, you know, there are like, you know, decision-making that the project team can have overall with like contingencies, right? What's the threshold where it comes back to the board?
Yes.
Yeah, Commissioner, Yeah, I think under Gold Line, the threshold is currently $250,000. For this, we've requested or negotiated that it be $150,000. So if there are items that pop up in between the milestones of 30%, 60%, 90%, the project, be it, whether it's the Met Council scope or the Ramsey County scope, those items would come back to the project decision board for review and approval.
Mhm. And I hear you say project decision board. I just want to know, like, have we identified who that is? And if some of this, the funding requires any sort of action from at least the regional rail
Yeah.
authority, for example.
Commissioner, we have kind of outlined within the capital grant agreement in specific what the makeup of that is. Ramsey County, I believe, has three representatives, and then that council has two. And that reflects, our funding commitment. So the individuals have not been identified, but that is the structure that we're proposing in the capital grant agreement.
Mhm. Okay. And would they be mostly as staff, or also would you say that they would be like Chair Zali chaired, the Purple Line one, for example? Are you imagining that would be higher level?
Commissioner, the makeup of that would be elected officials, so members from this board and members from the Metropolitan Council.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that. And then, the other question I had, was just around benches for BRT, station features. I see limited benches. I would, highly support the consideration for benches. I've seen in different areas where they design benches for folks to sit and wait. As we want to encourage, mobility and moving around, I want to encourage us to also offer benches for that, especially for folks as they are aging in place.
I just want to, it's Mary Jo channeling through you.
Ask my question so that I can check them off my list. If you ask one more, then we're gonna let other people, and then we'll come back to you again. Commissioner. I just want to make sure that other
Okay.
people get a chance to ask their questions. That, I hope we have, I want to have time for everyone's questions. So,
Okay.
Yeah, but
Last one,
Okay.
my burning one is around our business support.
yeah.
About, it's, I would say this project is similar to, the one that's on Rice Street. However, I would imagine that this is, takes a lot more time, a little more intensive. So my question around that in terms of the business support is, we aren't doing payments, no loans or grants. How are we preparing businesses for construction, and what does that role look like for us?
So I'll say a couple things first, and then you guys can please add. I think we're thinking about it in a similar way to Rice Street, in that we're trying to prepare people for what to expect. We're wanting them to understand what it's gonna look like. We wanna talk to them about what we anticipate the impacts to be. I think what we're trying to do is set the table for, we don't wanna start out by saying we're gonna expect failure, and that we're gonna pay you for revenues. Our goal is to be as responsive as possible. And so that we're maintaining access, we're doing all the things that we can do to minimize the impact on people's ability to get around and get to the things that they need to. Now, similar to Rice Street, Public Works has not had any funding that has gone towards businesses per se. There are grant programs through the city, and CED has been helpful at times with some aspects of trying to prepare businesses. I think we're at the stage now where the one thing I might suggest is that a partnership between, and this is off the cuff, so anybody CED is like, where the hell is this coming from? Like, this not entirely cooked yet, but I think one of the things that we have talked about in the past has been some ability to prepare businesses for, let's say making good business decisions, knowing what we can expect. I will say, if Rice Street is something where we can take lessons from it, the business communications that have gotten to me, or I think even to you all, it's been folks who have not necessarily availed themselves of all of the options that were available to them. Whether it was working with a neighborhood organization or trying to work with other groups to get the things that they need, or they've made a decision that really put them in a tight spot. And now it feels like construction has put them there. And so that's, I think, the really challenging part of how we navigate all of this. And so, I think that there's room for us to at least come up with some sort of almost like a manual or something where we could be helpful to the business community to say, as you're approaching and as we're telling you we're this far away, let's talk about what do some of those decisions look like? And how would it be, what would be a good decision to make? And what are some of the things you might not want to dive into during construction? Does that make sense?
Yeah, one of the things, that coordination would be critical, and then just beginning, I've heard from our community business support, areas on the east side, where they have talked about, others have done like a business resiliency inventory for businesses. Meaning like they're approaching businesses and say, hey, I see that you're not online. There's a project that's coming and you rely on foot traffic or your laundromat. Here are some things that have worked for other businesses to remain resilient during construction. So I just want us to consider that as a way of investment and not do the direct grant or like the payment and loans, but really that technical assistance piece. And then on top of that, I just want to also say that they will be approaching us because they will say this is a Ramsey County project.
Yep.
So that's why I just want us to prepare and be thoughtful in how we engage businesses on the front end.
Absolutely. That's a message that we've heard loud and clear from you all. But this is not something that is the normal construction project.
Yes. Thank you.
And I appreciate that. And these are all good questions. We have everyone on this board wants to ask more questions and we're gonna do that. I'm sensitive to the time, so I'm gonna have us feel free to like park some of these issues. And we may have to come back for some of the big issues, but we want to get the questions out there. And I'm gonna talk to our county manager about when we do this, like my questions are gonna be revolving around the pedestrian and biking lanes and how we decide that. And this is not just this project, but a lot of projects. And we've got these moto bikes now that are out there and there's just so many issues with these ped and bike lanes. So I'm gonna ask for a workshop just on that. So I'm not gonna ask you to talk about it in this project, but I'm just gonna do that and then we'll entertain other questions.
Yeah, so, Deputy County Manager Collins and I talked about maybe similar to Building Stronger Together, this could be like a series of mini workshops. Whether you want to do them at Regional Rail or through here, like I think this is a continuous project, it's gonna last several years here.
Yeah.
It's not a one and done, so we want to make sure we're kind of telling chapters of the story, focus on specific parts. I think this was the kind of launching pad to getting the agreements done, getting the FTEs underway, but I think, make your list of those things you want to do a slightly deeper dive on. And what I will work with them is, kind of a good schedule of cadence, maybe once a month where we're hitting like a mini topic, if that makes sense, along the way, or every other month, that sounds like a lot, but so I think that would be, so just kind of, it'll feel like you're not satisfying the whole big picture, but we're gonna have to take it in chunks, as you say, so. And that'll give them some time to build out different, so we can match your interests to where they're kind of update ready and align us like maybe a year of schedules, maybe of sorts, so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. So I'll use this remaining time then to just have all of you get your questions on the table. Or either put it in a mini workshop. If it's a quick answer, do that. But this is the time to get these out on the table for the next
And I can
steps.
do an inventory with you
So,
all.
Commissioner Moran, and I know.
So what time is this? Oh, what time?
Well, we were supposed to go till noon. I mean, can we go 5 more minutes? I mean, or
Started late.
we did start, I mean, this is not on you. I mean, we started a half an hour late. So
I'm not sure you want
it's a
that.
question for the.
We got 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, let's do
It's-
5
so
minutes,
I'm
but
gonna-
then knowing that we have other, I've done my thing, but I want.
I think, right, John, you answered, I mean, you asked a lot of my questions around the project delivery agreement, since Ramsey County is 90% and Macon is 10%, is that like all things equal? Or, when do we come back to, that whole process? And you asked about the businesses, I would definitely think learn lessons from the green line is what you have learned.
Right.
In the gold line and put it in, manual copies to give to the businesses to support them. Yeah, I think you just went to Like really all of my questions. Yeah, if I think, along the way, there are other questions that you're thinking about this, we can always submit it to you so you can come with the answers to.
I just have one more global question, which is between building stronger together, the work that we're talking about here, the work on the spine road in Rice Creek Commons, the future work on the river's edge. I mean, there's a lot going on within this broader department that's, bigger than Public Works, but it's also this broader department. I'm looking over your shoulder at Carrie. And I think these are all investments in our community with the end goal of broadening our tax base and creating more economic opportunity and development for our residents and our communities. But all of this also takes staffing and coordination and training to do this and do this well. And so I guess I would just encourage you to continue. I appreciate that there's a staffing need outlined in here, and also the idea that these would be non-levy funded, but to continue to bring up the bandwidth of this department and to make sure that as we're doing this, to the point, the thoughtfulness that's gone into making sure that while we're making these investments, that our communities, are feeling connected and mitigating any harms and all these kind of things, but continue to bring those conversations to us so that we don't lose track, because it's very easy for us to get these overviews and then 6 months later come back and realize we've compacted a lot of work into a small team and then continue to ask more of them. And I want to make sure that we're being, realistic in what we're doing and with teams.
Good, great. Thank you. Commissioner Daggett, did you have any questions you'd like to get on the table or?
I meet with them every week.
That's great. Yeah. So if there's any workshop ideas that you want to see further develop, that's what we really want to hear from all of you. And I want to thank you all for your great presentation, for your great work on this. Thank my colleagues for your great patience in asking questions and getting these good issues on the table, and we'll just continue this work. And yes, I should let you make any final remarks.
I'll just say,
Right.
I think some of you probably are the only one left who has that longevity of seeing this project from its onset.
Rush line.
This is a huge deal. This has been something that we have convulsed and started and stopped and moved and revised over the course of time. And I'll just, I'm always one to take credit for people's good work, but in this case, like, these folks got it across the finish line.
Is this the old purple line? No.
Rush line.
This was the purple
This
line?
goes back to the old Rush.
What's the old
like,
Rush purple?
This was the Rush line, which was the Rush City, which then was the White Bear, which like
That
longevity of 30 years of work.
Wow.
Finally coming to a conclusion where we're gonna do final design
Wow.
as part of a design contract this
So
fall.
let me tell you,
Wow.
this was before Rush Line.
Yeah.
This was part of the Riverview line
Oh, fine.
Wow.
initially. And the
Okay.
federal zone said you gotta chop it in half.
So
So we came up with Rush.
So
I'm just saying, yet again,
this is a big
our
deal.
team delivered something that's been waiting for 30 years.
So let's go back to the nineties at least. I will say, please consider that, because in the nineties, this senior citizen building was not there.
Right.
And now it is.
Yeah.
And it's gonna have an impact, so just
Yeah.
consider, should you move it over?
Yeah.
Something will be right there on it.
We hear that.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to do with the pedestrian walkways that the senior citizens want.
Mhm.
Well, everybody wants them, but they want ability to walk around their buildings and stuff, and these are really big deals.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you all. Thank you.
Good job.
Good job. Good job. Good job.